Welcome to Artificially Literate, the show where books, films, and ideas meet deep thought and boundless curiosity. Every episode, we dive into a piece of literature, maybe a compelling video or a significant cultural moment, breaking down its philosophical and literal meanings, and hopefully providing some thoughtful takeaways. Whether you're a lover of stories, a seeker of meaning, or someone who just enjoys a thoughtful takeaway, this is your space to reflect, learn, and maybe look at the world a little differently. Today, we're plunging into one of the most celebrated novels of all time, really a cornerstone of English literature that continues to enchant readers centuries later. Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Its enduring popularity is, well, truly remarkable. It solidified its status as a classic long before, Austen mania really hit in the mid-1990s with all those captivating film and TV adaptations.
It's quite incredible how it continues to resonate as an Austen's genius. It isn't just about crafting a delightful romance. It's her almost surgical dissection of social performativity and human psychology. She creates these singular characters who are so vibrantly drawn, so complex, that they genuinely linger in your imagination long after you finish the book. And beyond the satisfying romance, her unparalleled sense of irony and wit, her brilliant, razor-sharp dialogue, and those meticulously woven plots, they're nothing short of exquisite. And it's fascinating to trace the novel's origins, starting as first impressions way back in 1796, 1797. Austen's own life experiences, her move to the bustling, fashionable town of Bath in 1801, and then later finding stability at Chawton Cottage in Hampshire in 1809, they undoubtedly sharpened her observational eye. You see it so clearly in the rich social tapestry of her novels.
Absolutely. And to really immerse ourselves in the world she created, we have to begin with that iconic opening line. It's a foundational truth that maybe on the surface seems almost quaint, but when you dig deeper, it sets the entire stage for the novel's profound social commentary. As the book opens, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. It sounds almost like a gentle, humorous observation, but it carries such immense weight, doesn't it?
Oh, it carries the crushing weight of a harsh material reality for women in Austen's era, especially for those from families of, let's say, modest fortune, like the Bennets. This line isn't just a wry comment on human nature. It's a stark declaration of economic necessity. For well-educated young women, marriage wasn't simply a romantic ideal. It was, as the novel painfully illustrates, the only honorable provision available to them, their pleasantest preservative from want. To put it plainly, without a husband, a gentlewoman faced a very bleak future. Dependency, maybe on reluctant relatives, or worse, having to work as a governess or companion, which was often seen as deeply humiliating, a real fall from social grace.
That economic pressure cooker is always simmering just beneath the surface, isn't it? It frames pretty much every social interaction, every dance, every conversation about potential matches. And that leads us directly to the profound structural challenge facing the Bennet family, the entail. The Longbourn estate, the actual house and grounds they live in, was entailed to Mr. Collins, a distant male relative.
Right, and this detail is critical. An entail meant that when Mr. Bennet died, the Longbourn estate, the source of their income, their social standing, wouldn't pass to any of his daughters. It would go straight to Mr. Collins. This would drastically reduce the Bennet daughters' yearly income, making it incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, for them to maintain the condition of a gentlewoman. They'd effectively be stripped of their social status and financial security. This is precisely why Mrs. Bennet's relentless, often comically frantic, pursuit of advantageous marriages for her daughters, while frequently embarrassing, isn't just social climbing. It's born of a very real, desperate fear of destitution and social ruin for her children. It's her primary mission, even if she pursues it with very little finesse.
So, with that understanding of the very real stakes, let's step into the Meryton Assembly. This is where we get our first crucial impressions of many characters. And as we quickly learn, first impressions can be terribly misleading. Mr. Bingley's arrival at Netherfield House sparks immediate excitement, and Mrs. Bennet, ever the strategist, is instantly focused on securing him as a husband for one of her girls. We see her playful, almost manipulative side as she tries to enlist Mr. Bennet, saying, "I will send a few lines by you to assure him of my hearty consent to his marrying whichever he chooses of the girls, though I must throw in a good word for my little Lizzie." Sets the stage, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And Mr. Bingley certainly plays his part beautifully. He makes a splendid first impression, described as good-looking and gentlemanlike, with easy, unaffected manners. He's affable, agreeable, and shows his immediate admiration for Jane Bennet by dancing with her twice, which, in that society, is a significant public mark of favor, a real sign of interest. He's pretty much everything you could wish for in a prospective suitor.
But then there's Mr. Darcy. Oh, Mr. Darcy. What a polar opposite first impression. He arrives with Mr. Bingley, and he's initially admired for his fine, tall person, handsome features, noble mien, and that staggering income of $10,000 a year. I mean, to put that in perspective, a comfortable gentry income might be a few £100s a year. Darcy's fortune is astronomically vast. It places him among the absolute elite. Yet despite all this, the tide of popularity turns almost immediately. His manners gave a disgust which turned the tide of his popularity, as he was seen as proud to be above his company and above being pleased. And of course, his refusal to dance more than 4 times, and that famously dismissive comment about Elizabeth, finding her only just tolerable, that's the classic misstep that sets the stage for everything.
Indeed. His initial demeanor isn't just off-putting, it's a deliberate social transgression, especially when you contrast it with Bingley's easy affability. This moment is the very genesis of Elizabeth's prejudice against him. Her lively and independent spirit, coupled with her stated appreciation for a good laugh, makes her particularly sensitive to such perceived slights and arrogance. She openly states her personal philosophy early on, saying she hopes she never ridicules what is wise or good, but finds follies and nonsense, whims, inconsistencies, do divert me, I own, and I laugh at them whenever I can. This tells us a lot about her discerning character, her wit, and precisely why Darcy's perceived pride rankles her so deeply. She has a really keen eye for hypocrisy and pretense.
And it's not just Darcy contributing to the initial wave of social snobbery, is it? The Bingley sisters, Caroline and Louisa, are equally adept at reinforcing those rigid class distinctions.
Their superciliousness is palpable. It infects their treatment of everyone, hardly excepting even her sister Jane, whom they barely tolerate despite her gentleness. They openly disdain Mrs. Bennet and dismiss the younger sisters not worth speaking to, making their contempt for the Bennets' lower status brutally clear. Their snobbery is highlighted when they joke about the Bennets' low connections, specifically their uncle being an attorney in Meryton and another living near Cheapside. Now, in Austen's stratified society, your connections dictated everything. An attorney or a relative living near Cheapside meant you were linked to trade the commercial world, not landed gentry. This was a significant marker of social inferiority, a perceived taint that the Bingley sisters, obsessed with status, just reveled in exploiting. This contrasts sharply with Mr. Bingley's genuinely open and generous spirit. He declares, if they had uncles enough to fill all Cheapside, it would not make them one jot less agreeable. He really embodies a more modern, less judgmental sensibility.
Yeah, he does. And their snobbery really comes to a head with Jane's unfortunate illness at Netherfield. Mrs. Bennet, ever the strategist, makes sure Jane travels on horseback in the rain, hoping she'll get stuck at Netherfield and, solidify her position. Elizabeth, being Elizabeth, immediately sets out on this determined walk through the countryside to be with her sick sister. She arrives with weary ankles, dirty stockings, and a face glowing with the warmth of exercise.
And Miss Bingley's reaction to Elizabeth's natural, sort of unmannered appearance is absolutely scathing. She harshly criticizes Elizabeth's manners, calling her very bad indeed, a mixture of pride and impertinence. Her appearance is described as almost wild, with hair so untidy, so blousy. The scene just perfectly encapsulates the deep-seated class distinctions, the performative nature of female accomplishment, and the superficial judgments that permeate their society. Elizabeth, fresh from an invigorating walk, is seen as unrefined and improper because she doesn't fit that rigid mold of fragile, delicate femininity.
Right. And this all leads to that fascinating conversation about what truly makes an accomplished woman. Darcy, in typical fashion, lays out this incredibly detailed, almost impossibly demanding definition. A woman must have a thorough knowledge of music, singing, drawing, dancing, and the modern languages, and something more substantial in the improvement of her mind by extensive reading. It's an intellectual bar set so high it's almost a barrier.
And Miss Bingley, with her characteristic sarcasm, brilliantly highlights the absurdity of such expectations. She reports, I am no longer surprised at your knowing only 6 accomplished women. I rather wonder now at your knowing any. It points out the utterly unrealistic societal expectations placed on women not just to be beautiful, but to be walking encyclopedias of parlor arts. This conversation also subtly highlights Elizabeth's character and her preference for intricate characters over easily understood ones. Her frankness often leads her to say things that challenge conventional politeness. It's a stark contrast to someone as easily seen through as Bingley, who has that surface-level charm, but maybe not much intellectual depth. It's an early glimpse into Elizabeth's own profound intellectual depth, beyond just mere accomplishments.
It's those follies and nonsense, whims and inconsistencies that Elizabeth finds so diverting, isn't it? You're listening to Artificially Literate, where we dive deep into the stories that shape our understanding of the world. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Pride and Prejudice, Remember to follow us wherever you listen. You can find Artificially Literate on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We'll be right back with more on the unraveling of perceptions. Welcome back to our deep dive into Pride and Prejudice. We've established the economic realities and that initial clash of personalities, but now we enter a phase where truths start getting revealed and hidden motives come to light. It forces everyone, especially Elizabeth, to question what they thought they knew. This really kicks off with the arrival of Mr. Collins. He's the entail heir, remember, meaning he's said to inherit the Bennet estate. And his unwavering self-importance, particularly his constant name-dropping of Lady Catherine de Bourgh, is immediately apparent. He makes this incredibly conscientious and polite, but utterly clumsy proposal to Elizabeth, believing she'll receive it with grateful, bashful modesty, like it's some great honor he's bestowing.
And Mrs. Bennet's reaction to Elizabeth's refusal is legendary. She's absolutely furious, isn't she? Bursting forth with this almost desperate plea, ordering Elizabeth to stay where you are and hear Mr. Collins. Her desperation for a secure marriage for at least one daughter, especially with the entail looming, pushes her to this extreme. It shows the profound anxiety underpinning her often ridiculous behavior. But Elizabeth, true to her independent spirit, steadfastly refuses this marriage of convenience.
Which brings us to one of the most poignant and, well, perhaps sobering moments in the novel. Charlotte Lucas accepting Mr. Collins' proposal just days later. Elizabeth is utterly floored by this. She finds it unaccountable, and it's a source of genuine pain for her, a stark reminder of the compromises women faced. Charlotte, at 27 and, as the book puts it, without having ever been handsome, makes a profoundly practical, yet almost heartbreakingly pragmatic choice.
Yes, exactly. For Charlotte, marriage was her only honorable provision and pleasantest preservative from want. This wasn't a choice born of love, but of sheer necessity. Despite Mr. Collins being neither sensible nor agreeable, and his attachment to her must be imaginary, she sees the clear economic imperative. Her decision serves as the stark reminder of the novel's nuanced view of marriage. It's not just a romantic ideal, it's an economic survival strategy. For many women, it was a practical transaction, a path to security over passion. Elizabeth's reaction really highlights this conflict between the ideal and the reality, showing the pain of seeing her dear friend make such a profound compromise. It underlines the very real constraints on women in that era, where societal expectations often just trumped personal happiness.
Then into this already complicated mix, we meet Mr. Wickham. He's immediately charming, has this easy manner that instantly appeals to Elizabeth, and he spins this incredibly convincing story about Mr. Darcy's supposedly scandalous behavior. Claims Darcy denied him a promised living, a comfortable church position, bequeathed by Darcy's late father, whom Wickham describes as one of the best men that ever breathed. This narrative instantly solidifies Elizabeth's existing prejudice against Darcy, confirming all her negative initial impressions.
And it's expertly crafted, isn't it? It leverages Elizabeth's existing dislike of Darcy's perceived pride. Wickham is a master manipulator. He presents himself as the wronged party, a victim of Darcy's arrogance and malice. His story is just plausible enough to be believed, especially given Darcy's cold exterior. Then we have another subtle but impactful piece of manipulation, Miss Bingley's letter to Jane. It subtly yet effectively undermines Bingley's intentions towards Jane and promotes a marriage between Bingley and Georgiana Darcy instead. Elizabeth, with her keen intellect, quickly perceives Miss Bingley's falsehood and contrivance, recognizing it as a calculated attempt to separate Bingley and Jane due to the Bennet family's perceived lower status and lack of connections. It's a clear example of social maneuvering, a cold, strategic calculation purely for status.
The ultimate dramatic turn, though, the moment that truly begins to shatter Elizabeth's perceptions, has to be Darcy's completely unexpected proposal to her at Rosings. He declares his ardent admiration and love for her, but is paradoxically coupled with this astonishing emphasis on her inferiority, her lack of fortune, her lower connections, and the degradation he feels at the prospect of their connection due to her family's social standing. Elizabeth, initially just astonished by the sheer audacity of his confession, is quickly roused to resentment by what she perceives as his abominable pride. She simply cannot reconcile his words of love with his condescending manner.
It's a proposal absolutely steeped in pride, isn't it? Both his own pride and his assumption that she somehow shares his understanding of social hierarchy. He's offering her this grand future, but insulting her in the process, genuinely believing she should be grateful. This scene is a masterclass in Austen's irony. But the true game changer, the profound epistemological shift for Elizabeth, comes with Darcy's subsequent letter. He doesn't just walk away in a huff. He writes to her, meticulously refuting Wickham's accusations, and perhaps even more shockingly for Elizabeth, explaining his interference in Jane and Bingley's relationship. This letter is the turning point for Elizabeth's understanding. It's the moment where her entire constructed reality about Darcy begins to crumble.
And what he reveals about Jane and Bingley is critical, right?
Indeed. On Jane and Bingley, Darcy confesses that while he initially believed Jane was truly indifferent to Bingley displaying without any symptom of peculiar regard, leading him to conclude she lacked true affection. His primary motivation for separating them was the total want of propriety so frequently, so almost uniformly betrayed by herself, Mrs. Bennet, by your 3 younger sisters, and occasionally even by your father. He acknowledges the pain in offending Elizabeth, but justifies his actions by stating he was preserving his friend from what he considered a most unhappy connection, one that would bring social disgrace and potential ruin due to the Bennet family's embarrassing behavior. He believed he was acting out of loyalty and protection for Bingley.
Wow. And his revelations about Wickham are even more shocking, painting a picture of a man entirely opposite to the charming figure Elizabeth had come to admire.
Absolutely. Darcy reveals Wickham's true character. Idle, dissipated, and utterly mercenary. Wickham had initially refused a career in the church, accepting a substantial £3,000 payment from the elder Darcy, supposedly instead of the living. Yet when the living became vacant later, he audaciously tried to claim it, despite having already renounced it for cash. Most significantly, and perhaps most dastardly, Darcy exposes Wickham's attempt to elope with his own 15-year-old sister Georgiana, purely for her substantial £30,000 fortune. This wasn't about love, it was pure financial exploitation, motivated also by a desire for revenge on Darcy himself. This detailed account paints a completely different, horrifying picture of the charming Wickham, forcing Elizabeth to confront the devastating consequences of her own misjudgment.
This mortifying perusal of Darcy's letter is such a pivotal moment for Elizabeth's growth. She's in disbelief at first, her mind reeling, but then she's forced to reevaluate all her previous judgments, not just of Darcy and Wickham, but of her own discernment. She acknowledges gross duplicity on one side or the other, and eventually recognizes that every line proved more clearly that the affair was capable of a turn which must make him entirely blameless throughout the whole. Her feelings shift from those ungracious sensations and saucy speeches she directed at him to being profoundly humbled by her own misjudgment, but also surprisingly proud of him for his honorable, if hidden, actions. It's a complete and profound shift in perspective, isn't it? A moment of genuine self-discovery.
It truly is. She has to confront her own prejudice head-on, her own tendency to form snap judgments and then cling to them. It's a testament to her intelligence and capacity for growth that she doesn't just dismiss the information presented by someone she dislikes, she truly grapples with it, allowing it to reshape her entire understanding of the world and the people in it. She realizes the dangerous folly of judging solely on first impressions or, secondhand gossip.
It's all about learning to navigate those intricate characters, isn't it? As Elizabeth wisely says, follies and nonsense, whims and inconsistencies do divert me, I own, and I laugh at them whenever I can, but these, I suppose, are precisely what you are without. End quote. This deep dive into Pride and Prejudice continues on Artificially Literate. Stay with us. Welcome back to Artificially Literate. We're now in the final act, where the triumph of understanding really blossoms, leading to profound personal transformations and the eventual happy resolutions. This part of the narrative truly kicks off with the devastating Lydia scandal. Elizabeth had earlier given Mr. Bennet that frustrated warning about Lydia's wild volatility, the assurance and disdain of all restraint, predicting she would become the most determined flirt. Well, her prediction comes true with Lydia's reckless elopement with Wickham to Brighton.
The Bennet family's distress and shame upon discovering the elopement is profound. It verges on utter despair. This wasn't just a personal embarrassment. It was about the taint of family reputation that threatened the prospects of all the Bennet sisters. In 19th century society, an elopement without marriage was an unpardonable sin, a public disgrace that would have ensured none of the other daughters would ever receive another marriage proposal. Their future, their very social existence, was utterly ruined by Lydia's reckless actions. What's truly shocking is Lydia's complete lack of remorse or embarrassment even after the event. She's utterly oblivious, even boastfully claiming Jane's place at the dinner table with a dismissive, "Ah, Jane, I take your place now and you must go lower, because I am a married woman." It perfectly illustrates her immaturity, her self-absorption, and the profound difference in her understanding of morality and consequence compared to Elizabeth.
But then comes the crucial, almost miraculous revelation from Mrs. Gardiner's letter. Mr. Darcy's secret, selfless intervention. He purposely tracked Lydia and Wickham down. He believed his own mistaken pride, His earlier silence about Wickham's true character had contributed to Wickham's reputation remaining intact and thus sort of enabled this disgrace.
This is where Darcy's character truly shines, doesn't it? Demonstrating a depth of honor and selflessness that completely contradicts Elizabeth's initial perceptions. He personally negotiated with Wickham, paying off his substantial debts, which amounted to considerably more than £1,000, a truly massive sum in that era, easily equivalent to, well, over £100,000 today, maybe more. He also purchased Wickham's commission in the army, removing him from a life of idleness, and settled another 1,000 in addition to her own on Lydia to secure the marriage and salvage the Bennet family's honor. This was a tremendous personal sacrifice made for a girl he could neither regard nor esteem, all subtly motivated by his profound affection for Elizabeth. It's a quiet, powerful act of redemption, undertaken without any expectation of recognition or gratitude. He truly embodies that idea of doing good by stealth.
And it's this astonishing act that finally allows for the shifting landscape of love and class to truly settle into place. Elizabeth's earlier visit to Pemberley, Darcy's magnificent estate, had already begun to soften her perceptions. She even had that fleeting, almost unconscious thought, quote, "To be mistress of Pemberley might be something." She's utterly surprised by the warm praise from Darcy's housekeeper, Mrs. Reynolds, who states, "I have never had a cross word from him in my life, and I've known him ever since he was 4 years old." This is such a stark contrast to the proud, arrogant man Elizabeth thought she knew, suggesting a public persona very different from his private character.
His altered demeanor at Pemberley is indeed strikingly altered. His civility and gentleness are noted, a world away from the haughty disdain he displayed back at Meryton. His genuine efforts to cultivate acquaintance with Elizabeth's humble relations, the Gardiners, demonstrate a significant personal growth and a willingness to overcome his pride, which previously prevented him from associating with those of lower status. This stark contrast to his earlier unbending reserve is crucial for Elizabeth's changing affections. She sees him actively dismantling his own pride for her sake, adapting himself to her connections.
The ultimate test of Elizabeth's spirit and a final push toward resolution is that dramatic confrontation with Lady Catherine de Bourgh at Longbourn. Lady Catherine, Darcy's aunt, and this formidable thesser of aristocratic arrogance, is outraged by the rumors of an engagement between Darcy and Elizabeth. She just sweeps into Longbourn, demanding that Elizabeth promise never to marry Darcy, citing the supposed disgrace to his family and her own rigid plans for her daughter to marry Darcy.
Elizabeth's unwavering and defiant refusal here is truly a triumph of character and spirit. She boldly declares, "I will make no promise of the kind. I am not to be intimidated into anything so wholly unreasonable." This spirited defense, ironically, gives Darcy the hope he needs to propose again. He learns of her defiance from Lady Catherine herself, confirming Elizabeth's true feelings and demonstrating her strength of character, her unwavering integrity, which he of course deeply admires. It's a moment where her pride in herself aligns perfectly with his admiration for her.
And with that, the happy resolutions just cascade. Bingley, having returned and finally freed from his sisters and Darcy's earlier interference, successfully proposes to Jane, confirming their genuine affection and enduring connection. Darcy then makes his second, much humbler proposal, confessing his unchanged affections, acknowledging his past pride, and simply stating his continued love. Elizabeth, tearful with emotion, accepts and tenderly explains the gradual change in her estimation of him, finally reconciling her father to the match, and Mrs. Bennet. Her joy is boundless, almost entirely focusing on the wealth and status Elizabeth's marriage would bring, declaring Jane's match, though happy, nothing to it, nothing at all, in comparison to Elizabeth's grand alliance. It's a perfect, satisfying ending, full of comedic irony and real emotional depth.
It is indeed a deeply satisfying conclusion for the characters, but the novel offers so much more for us to consider, doesn't it? Especially when we look at its philosophical and real-life implications in our present age. Let's delve into the dual nature of Pride and Prejudice, for instance. Austen's novel doesn't just paint these qualities as purely negative, it challenges us to move beyond simplistic interpretations. Pride, in her world, isn't merely arrogance. It can also be, as some literary critics suggest, a legitimate sense that one's exalted position in society makes one accountable to uphold those values. For Darcy, his pride is intertwined with a sense of duty to its family name, his social sphere. Similarly, Prejudice could be viewed, as Edmund Burke suggested back in 1790, as a protection of time-honored custom and a means by which duty becomes part of his nature. This invites us, to consider how these concepts, often seen as purely negative today, function in society, maybe even within ourselves. Where does a healthy sense of self-worth or maybe caution become arrogance or unfair judgment?
That's a fascinating point. It really forces us to ask, how do we distinguish between genuine self-respect and arrogance in ourselves and others? And the enduring tension between marrying for love versus marrying for security. While the specific economic constraints of the 19th century are largely gone, how do financial considerations, social expectations, or even family influence still shape romantic choices today? It's not always about an entail, but money and status certainly haven't disappeared from the equation, have they? Many still weigh material comfort against emotional connection in their relationships.
No, not at all. And the journey of self-discovery and overcoming bias remains such a timeless theme that Pride and Prejudice explores with incredible depth. Elizabeth learns to see beyond first impressions and her own confirmation biases, dismantling the narrative she built around Darcy. Simultaneously, Darcy sheds his arrogance and condescension, undergoing a profound personal transformation. Their journey of self-awareness is right at the heart of the novel's resonance. It speaks strongly to modern ideas of personal growth, challenging one's own assumptions, and grappling with the inherent complexity of human character. We are all prone to initial misjudgments, and the novel highlights the difficult but necessary work of revising them, often through humbling experiences.
What about the power of reputation and appearances? In Austen's time, family reputation and social standing were absolutely paramount, as the Lydia scandal tragically highlighted. It threatened to ruin the prospects of all the Bennet sisters, not just Lydia herself. How do concepts of reputation or social standing manifest in today's digital age? Is it through social media, public perception, the relentless pursuit of an online persona? The stakes might feel different, perhaps less about destitution and more about, say, cancel culture or public shaming, but the pressure to maintain a certain image and avoid scandal is arguably higher than ever.
Absolutely. And finally, consider how the entire plot of Pride and Prejudice is so powerfully driven by misunderstandings and miscommunications. We see the impact of gossip, withheld information, personal biases contributing to both escalating conflict and eventual resolution. Darcy's pride prevents him from explaining himself. Elizabeth's prejudice prevents her from believing him. This makes us reflect on how valuable clear, honest communication and the capacity for forgiveness remain in our own lives, especially in an age where information or misinformation spreads instantly. These aren't just historical observations, they are deeply human truths about the challenges and rewards of understanding one another.
It's all about navigating those intricate characters, isn't it? As Elizabeth reminds us, follies and nonsense, whims and inconsistencies do divert me, I own, and I laugh at them whenever I can. But these, I suppose, are precisely what you are without. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice here on Artificially Literate. We truly hope our discussion provided you with maybe some new insights and fresh perspectives on this timeless classic tale and its enduring themes. Explore our other episodes for more thought-provoking discussions on books, films, and ideas. Follow Artificially Literate on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube to stay tuned for our next book and for more topics that will expand your understanding of the world. And remember, feed your brain, starve your inner fool.